Welcome to Hogle Home Safari. My name is Angelina and I work at the Education Department here at Utah's Hogle Zoo. Today we're going to be learning about something that I think is so incredibly important. Today we are going to be talking about creating solutions to conservation issues. Now, here at Utah's Hogle Zoo, not only do we take amazing care of the animals that live here, but we try to make sure that animals around the world and their habitats are being taken care of as well. It's something that we take really seriously and spend a lot of time doing. Luckily, this isn't something we're doing alone. There are so many people and so many different organizations around the world who have the same goals as we do, and we work together to do our best to make sure that those happen. Now, that's no easy little task. There are so many different issues depending on the species and the environment. There really isn't a cookie-cutter solution for all of them, just because they're so different. One thing that scientists and conservationists have discovered, though, is in order for a solution to be a good one, you have to involve people. And sometimes we forget that people have a part in conservation, but they do. If we want to solve a problem, we need some people power. Now, there's a few different ways to get people involved. One is through education. People like me who are educators in zoos and educators in a whole bunch of different facilities spend a lot of time trying to make sure people not only understand the problem, but that there's a solution. And it's really important that those two pieces go together. If people know that there's a problem, but not how to fix it, they're not going to know what they can do. If people know that a solution is out there, but they don't understand the problem or how that solution can fix the problem, they might not do it. So it takes a lot of time to make sure that those two pieces are connected so people can understand and solutions can happen. Now, as important as it is to make those two things work together, it takes a little bit to figure out those solutions that people can do. And it's really important that people are part of designing and developing and creating this solution. It can't just be somebody going, oh, let's do this, and the people who need to have that happen, we'll just hope that happens. That doesn't work. So instead, you have to work with the people who need to be part of the solution, whether that's part of a specific community or part of a larger global community as a whole. You need to be able to work with people to find a solution they are both willing and able to do to make a solution work. Now, there are a lot of different organizations out there who are doing some really good work with that, and we work with two of them here at the zoo. So we work with both the Snow Leopard Trust and the Nyasa Lion Project. These two organizations do a really amazing job at working with communities to find solutions that work for those communities. Now, snow leopards and lions are really different animals. So I have some things here to show just how different those animals can be. So you can kind of see the difference between the skull sizes. So snow leopards are much, much smaller than lions. And they're different colors. So the snow leopards, they have those spots, they're those gray and black colors. They are really good at blending in to things like the Himalayan mountains in which they live. The lions, though, they tend to be kind of a tawny brown color. The males have this beautiful, gorgeous mane. It helps them when they're fighting other males. And they're much larger. They live in different habitats. The lions live in the African savanna. They're very different cats, living in very different habitats, and the people who live in the habitats with them are very different from one another as well. So it's interesting to think that the conservation issues that both snow leopards and lions face are sometimes the same issue. Human-animal conflict is a really big deal, not just for cats, but for animals around the world. The people who work at both of these organizations have learned that when people live in areas where there are large cats, and they live in a way where they have to be able to farm and raise their own food or catch their food, that conflict tends to be a really big problem. People tend to be scared of cats. They're big, they're carnivores, they can be dangerous, and people need to make sure that they can be safe and that their livelihoods can be safe. Both of these cats are known for catching and eating livestock of people who need to have that livestock in order for them to eat or for them to sell it so they can get money to provide for their families. So finding a way to make sure that both the cats can survive and the people can survive and both of those needs are being met can be quite a challenge. Now, both organizations have looked at these different scenarios and they've come up with different solutions. Even though those scenarios are both pretty similar, the root problem is the same. Now, the Snow Leopard Trust, they have goat insurance. So if a snow leopard were to kill someone's goat, the Snow Leopard Trust would be willing to give them the money to replace it. That way, that family doesn't have to worry about the money that they would have gotten if they were able to sell the goat, or they can buy another goat and replace the food that they had lost. This makes it so that people don't have a reason to retaliate and kill the snow leopards out of fear for losing things that they need. The Nyasa Lion project is a little different. So they realize that the same thing. These people either have to go and trap their food, or they have to raise their own food, and sometimes the lions can cause problems with that, and people don't always feel safe. So they have tried to make it so that the people who are raising those goats have a safer place for those goats to go. They make these corrals, and the goats can go in at night, which is when the cats tend to hunt the most, and it's safe for them, and if the goats are safe, in turn that makes it so the lions are safe as well. If they're unable to catch the goats and their livestock, it makes it so there's no reason for people to retaliate against the lions for eating their livestock. So both of those solutions have been successful, but they both started with those organizations talking with communities. Now, even though those solutions are very different, there are different solutions that they've come with that are very similar. So in that scenario for both organizations, one of the things that comes in common is that people need to be able to survive, and people need money in order to do so. While livestock is a common way for both of these people to get money and get their food, there are other ways as well. Both organizations have alternate livelihood programs. And alternate livelihood programs are ways that people can earn money that makes it so their chances of having the human-wildlife conflict is at a minimum. So places like the Nyasa Lion Project and Snow Leopard Trust, they work together to make it so people can learn the skills needed to make different kind of items. So I have a bag that somebody in Mozambique working with the Nyasa Lion Project made. It's this beautiful thing, I quite like it. Or they might make statues, and people can buy them and they get money for them, and the organizations help to sell them so people can get money. And that's really important. It's another solution that involves people in a way that they can do and they're willing to do, and it helps make sure that both the needs of people and animals are being met. Now here at Utah's Hogle Zoo, we have a whole lot of people that come to visit. On average, we get over 1 million people a year, and while we do our best to make sure that habitats and animals around the world are being protected, we also care a lot about the habitats and animals that live right here in Utah. So we try to find a way to make sure that our guests were having an experience that was a little more sustainable, a little more green, a little more environmentally friendly, while making sure they were still having fun and having the things that they need, which when you get 1 million people a year, that can be quite a dilemma to solve. So one thing we decided to do was to make sure that we have water bottle filling stations. So people have a place to bring their own reusable water bottles, and they can easily refill them. It can be a little difficult to refill a big water bottle in a drinking fountain. Often those streams just aren't big enough, and it can be hard to put them under a faucet, so we have special stations where people can refill their water bottles to encourage them to not use single-use plastic. We've also stopped selling single-use plastic water bottles anywhere that people can get food. So you're still able to buy a water bottle, you're still able to even buy one that is pre-filled, but they're not plastic anymore. Because plastic can cause a really big problem not just in Utah but around the world. You see, plastic is kind of a forever thing. It might break down, but it takes hundreds of years to break down, and it doesn't decompose. It just breaks down into smaller and smaller bits. And this can be a really big problem for wildlife. It can be eaten, and it can make animals really sick, and it can even make animals die. So by reducing the amount of single-use plastic on grounds, we are doing our part to save local wildlife here in Utah. And again, that solution requires the people that come through our gates to be willing to be part of it. Alright, now another way that we can all get involved with conservation solutions is by being part of citizen science or community science-based projects. These are projects where scientists need people's help in order to gather or go through data that they're collecting. And there's a whole bunch of different projects out there, so if you have an interest in plants or insects or animals, no matter what you're interested in or what you're able to do, there's probably a project in which you can help, which I think is really amazing. Now, some of these projects you might be counting bugs, or you might be recording the day that a leaf comes into leaf, or you might be recording different animals you see, or you might be looking at pictures from camera traps around the world. They're all different, but they all need people in order to help make conservation and scientific solutions happen. Now, some of these solutions that we're going to talk about today are some that the zoo is personally involved with and one of my personal favorites to do. Now, the first one we're going to talk about today is called Frog Watch USA. And this is a program that people in the zoo community, through the associations of zoos and aquariums, put together because amphibians, frogs, toads, and salamanders are so incredibly important. Amphibians are indicator species. They let scientists know if changes are happening in the ecosystem because they're very sensitive to change. And if a change is happening that isn't good for them, their populations tend to decline pretty rapidly. So by looking at those populations, scientists can tell if maybe they need to look harder into what problems are happening in those ecosystems. So part of Utah's Hogle Zoo Citizen Science projects is that we do frog watch trainings every year. You can go to our website and see when those training dates are. You will learn how to listen and identify different amphibian species here in Utah just based on their sound. You record your data and send it to the scientists so they can tell which species have populations where. And that's really important information for them to have. Another citizen science project that I really enjoy doing is one that you don't even have to get out of your pajamas to do. It's called Zooniverse. So scientists, they often have what's called camera traps when they're studying wild places and wild animals. These camera traps are cameras that are on like a rock or tied to a tree, and they take pictures whenever something moves. Sometimes they take so many pictures, one scientist can never hope to get through all of them. So instead, they upload them to a website called zooniverse.org, and different people all over the world can get involved and look at these pictures, identify things that they think are in the picture, and it tells the scientists what pictures they need to look at and which ones they really don't. And that can save a lot of time and help scientists work together with conservationists to make solutions to protect wildlife and wild places. Now, as we do these different types of conservation solutions, there are a few things we need to think about in order to think critically. Thinking critically is such an amazing skill that we all need to have. So some things we need to think critically about are, 1, what is this project hoping to achieve? How is it going to help? 2, what do you think a solution to that problem might be? 3, is there already a solution in place? 4, what problems might both of those types of solutions face? And 5, how would you get people to care and know about that problem and the solutions you have come up with? As we think critically about these things, we can help develop conservation solutions, which I think is really incredible. It can take people like you and me who care and think critically and learn more to make solutions that can change the world. So if you are able to do this and you want to, you can write us a letter and tell us about the conservation solutions that you are thinking of for problems that you really care about. You can educate us, and I'd be happy to pass it along to our conservation department as well, because it's always important to think about different ideas and hopefully make solutions. Who knows? Maybe you could be the one who makes a conservation solution that saves a species. So I hope that you think critically, get involved with conservation solutions, and get involved with citizen science. Thank you for joining me today here at Utah's Hogle Zoo's Hogle Home Safari.